What's going on, guys? The Comics Kid 2099 here. Welcome to day 211 of the 365-day graphic novel review challenge. As you probably know, for the last several days I have been talking about books that feature robots in some way, and today I want to talk about another very robot-centric book. This is Transformers: The War Within, written by Simon Furman with art by Don Figueroa. This is a 6-issue miniseries that came from Dreamwave Publications, which is a company that no longer exists. It was a thing in the late 90s, early 2000s. They didn't really do that much stuff. This particular collection was actually done by IDW, but originally this story was done by Dreamwave. And basically this is the origin of Optimus Prime. We get to see the early stages of the war between the Decepticons and the Autobots, and we get to see Optimus Prime going from being basically an accountant to being the leader of the Autobots. And there are quite a few things about this book that I really like, and then there are some things about it that don't work for me very well. So let me go ahead and talk about the good. I really like that this is a character piece about Optimus Prime. Most of the time, Optimus Prime is just the generic good. He is the guy that every other Autobot looks up to, and there's not really much to his personality beyond that. It's kind of like in the first Terminator movie where Kyle Reese says he would die for John Connor, but we don't know much about him beyond everyone looks up to him and he's the leader of the Resistance. That's kind of how it is with Optimus Prime, except that we have tons and tons of stories about this guy, but we don't know much about him. I like that here we get to see him struggling with being chosen to be the leader of the Autobots and being the new Prime. As we know and have known since the movie came out in the 80s, that the Prime is actually something that is passed down from one Autobot leader to another, or actually from one Cybertronian leader to another, since the Autobots were a fairly recent thing as of the war beginning in this universe. But I like that we see him, not entirely sure if this was the right decision that the Elder Council people have made. I like that he is struggling with that, and all the Autobots that we see in the story, they are struggling with it. They don't just immediately fall in line and say, we love you, Optimus Prime, and we are going to follow you to our deaths. They are saying, you know, we all swore an oath to follow the Prime, but we're not sure if this guy really should be the Prime, and we're not really sure if he's making the right decisions. I really like that we get to see him go from being a little bit green behind the ears and not really sure if he knows what he's doing, to being a little bit closer to the Optimus Prime that we all know and love. That was my favorite thing about this book. As far as what I don't think works very well, I have no idea why the war between the Decepticons and the Autobots is being fought in the first place. And that is me coming from a place where I am not very knowledgeable about the Transformers as a property. I never watched the original series very much. I watched a little bit of Season 1. I may have watched all of Season 1 a few years ago, but I don't know much about the Transformers. I've seen the first 2 Michael Bay movies, didn't think much of those. I remember watching Beast Wars when I was a kid, but that's obviously an entirely different thing that's completely, or almost completely, divorced from the Transformers lore that we're dealing with here. I've read some of the IDW stuff that came after this miniseries, but I've never seen anyone actually explain to me why the Decepticons and the Autobots are fighting each other, and this book doesn't do that either. When this book starts, the war has already been going on for a little while, and we see some Decepticons that are like, hey, there's some Cybertronians who haven't declared a side, they're neutral, let's kill them. And you think I'm exaggerating, that's really what they do. Like, they just go in and they kill these neutral Cybertronians for no real reason at all. At one point, Optimus Prime has told all of the Autobots, and basically everyone who is not a Decepticon, okay, the Decepticons want Cybertron, let's let them have Cybertron, let's just leave, and then we'll end this war. And Megatron is like, no, we can't let that happen, let's explode the planet. And I don't understand what either of these sides are fighting for, beyond the Autobots are the good guys, the Decepticons are the bad guys. And it was that simplistic back in the show, I know that much, but I feel like they should have tried to find a good reason why these guys are fighting each other. Let's give Megatron and the Decepticons a little bit of motivation behind this war. Do they feel like they are oppressed? Do they feel like they should be in charge? I don't really know. This book doesn't go out of its way to try and explain that and give motivation to these characters. To be honest, the good guys in the story don't really have much of a motivation either, beyond fighting these guys who started this war. I really wish that it gave us a little bit more of that. I think this would have been a much stronger Transformers origin story if we had a little bit of the reasons why this war began in the first place. As is, it's a really good Optimus Prime story. It gives us a whole lot of depth into his character and tells us a lot about him, which I feel like was very lacking before this came out, but I wish that we had more of that for the circumstances surrounding his origin, which unfortunately we did not get. So those are my very brief thoughts on Transformers: The War Within. I hope that you guys liked this video, and if you did, be sure to like, share, comment, and subscribe, and I will be back tomorrow with another video. In the meantime, you guys have a great rest of the day. Catch you later. Transformers?